Annieville, South Carolina, a small coastal town waking up to the worst forecast in its history. Meteorologists aren't just calling it a Category 5, one expert bluntly states. If they ever considered creating a Category 6, this would be it. The evacuation orders go out. Most people listen. Most. But scattered across town, a handful of people are still there, each trapped by something they couldn't outrun. Meanwhile, deep in the waters offshore, marine biologist Dr. Dale Edwards is watching his instruments with a growing dread that has nothing to do with wind speed. Something is moving beneath the surface. Something that shouldn't be this close to shore. Dale calls his niece Dakota and makes her a promise he fully intends to keep. I'm coming to get you, but he doesn't know what's already coming for her first. Dakota is 17. She recently lost her mother, and she hasn't left the house since. Not because she's lazy, not because she doesn't understand the danger outside, but because agoraphobia. She stands at the window and watches her neighbors load their cars and drive away, one by one, until the street is empty. Her entire world is reduced to 4 walls, and Hurricane Henry is about to tear those walls down. Her only lifeline is Dale, her uncle, a man who understands sharks better than he understands people, and right now, he's still miles away. What Dakota doesn't know yet is that the streets are about to fill with something far worse than rainwater. Lisa is 4 days past her due date. She's exhausted and newly abandoned by the father of her child. She has every reason in the world to be lying down somewhere safe. Instead, she's being called into her shift at the local meatpacking plant because her bosses decide the storm is no reason to close early. When you're working class and alone, you don't say no. But when she finally tries to leave, the interstate has already been shut down. She's trapped in town. She gets in her car and tries to find another route out, but Hurricane Henry has other plans. The rain hits like a wall of water. The roads become rivers. And then a wave enormous and sudden strikes the car and slams it sideways into a fallen tree. The trunk of that tree punches straight through the door. Lisa is pinned inside. The water is rising. The levees protecting Annieville were built for a different era, designed for storms that no longer exist in a climate that no longer holds still. When Hurricane Henry finally makes landfall, they don't hold, not even close. Within minutes, the streets of Annieville are completely submerged. The town becomes an open ocean. And it's not just water rushing in. Nearby, a meatpacking truck damaged in the initial surge begins to hemorrhage animal blood into the floodwater. A dark plume spreads through the streets like ink dropped in a glass. Miles offshore, Dr. Dale Edwards watches his tracking data with horror. The sharks he's been monitoring are following the blood. They're heading into the town, and nobody on those streets knows it yet. Ron, Dee, and Will Olsen are 3 foster siblings living with the worst kind of people, the kind who take in kids for the government check and feed them Wonder Bread while eating steak in the basement. Mr. Olsen refused to evacuate. He called the hurricane overblown. He was wrong about everything. When the water floods their home and the windows begin to shatter, he finally decides to act, but it's too late for heroics. He and Mrs. Olsen head to the garage to retrieve their truck, a vehicle with a snorkel attachment capable of running through deep water. They never make it back. Sharks have already reached the garage. What the kids hear next is something they will never forget, and then there is silence. Ron, Dee, and Will are completely alone, standing on a kitchen table with brown water swirling around their ankles, knowing that whatever just happened in that garage, it's coming for them next. From her upstairs window, Dakota watches 2 men wade into the flooded street toward Lisa's wrecked car. She watches them try to pull the door open. She watches a fin cut through the water behind them, and then she watches them die. The screaming stops. Lisa is still trapped, still alive, still looking up toward Dakota's window with desperate eyes. Every instinct Dakota has, every alarm bell that has kept her frozen indoors since her mother died is screaming at her to stay. But something stronger takes over. She grabs what she can find. She opens the front door. She steps into the water. She reaches Lisa. She frees her from the wreckage. She gets her back inside. But the water keeps rising, and they're not safe yet, not even close. The water inside the house is now waist deep. Lisa is in active labor. The structure around them is groaning and cracking. There's a boat left behind by the men who died trying to save Lisa bobbing in the flooded street just outside. That boat is their only way out, but the water between them and it is full of bull sharks. Suddenly, Dakota remembers something her uncle told her once, almost casually, the way a marine biologist talks shop with family. Sharks are drawn to vibrations in water. They interpret them as an injured animal. Without overthinking it, Dakota grabs a battery-powered toothbrush, seals it in a plastic bag, turns it on, and throws it into the floodwater down the street. The sharks swarm toward it immediately. It's ridiculous. It's desperate. It works for now. Dakota sprints for the boat. What she doesn't know is that the vibration won't hold their attention forever. She has perhaps 60 seconds, maybe less. Ron, Dee, and Will have been slowly pushed higher and higher inside the house as the water rises. The kitchen table became the countertops. The countertops became the highest shelf they could reach. Someone, Ron, who is clearly the most resourceful of the three, makes a decision that is equal parts brilliant and insane. They need to go into the flooded basement. Down there, behind a locked door the foster parents kept for themselves, are the steaks Mr. Olsen hoarded while feeding his charges bread. And down there, even more improbably, is a box of dynamite. Nobody questions where it came from. There's no time. Ron's plan crystallizes fast. Duct tape the steaks to the dynamite, throw it where the sharks are feeding, and detonate. It's the kind of plan only a desperate teenager could conceive. It shouldn't work, but the film earns a particular kind of grim satisfaction when it does, and when the blast also solves the problem of the cartoonishly monstrous myth. Dr. Dale Edwards has been racing against the storm since the moment the levees broke. He is not a man built for panic. Decades of fieldwork with apex predators will do that to a person, but what he finds when he reaches Annieville strips even his composure down to the bone. The streets he knows are gone. The landmarks are gone. Everything is underwater. His tracking equipment shows the bullshark school has fully dispersed through the residential flood zones. And somewhere in the data, lurking at the edge of the signal, is a much larger signature, Nellie, a heavily pregnant great white that Dale and his research team have been monitoring for months. She shouldn't be here. She's been tracking north for weeks, but the blood in the water pulled her in, and now she's somewhere in the middle of a flooded South Carolina town. Dale reaches Dakota's location with his boat. As Lisa is giving birth right now, on what remains of the second floor, and the floor is collapsing beneath her. Lisa has been holding on through sheer ferocious will, abandoned, surrounded by predators. In labor, blood in the water, exhaustion, making her movements slow and erratic. She is the most vulnerable thing in Annieville right now. She fends off the first shark with a piece of timber, swinging it with the kind of furious maternal desperation that defies biology. Dakota shoots at another. They get Lisa onto the boat, but the bull sharks haven't left. They're still circling. And something much larger is moving in from deeper water. Nellie Dale's great white, the animal he has spent months tracking and naming and, in the quiet way scientists do, caring about, arrives. But not as a threat. As the bull sharks close in on the boat for what should be the kill, Nellie erupts from below and strikes, scattering them. She has followed the blood, yes. But she is also a predator asserting dominance over territory. For a few breathless seconds, Nellie circles the boat. Dale is frozen not from fear, but from something approaching awe. His pregnant research subject has just become an unlikely guardian angel. Producer Adam McKay has noted that he'd never seen a great white depicted this way in a shark film before. A scientist's years of patient observation repaid in the most extraordinary way imaginable. The hurricane passes. The water begins to recede. Dakota, pale and shaking but finally outside, is reunited with Dale. Lisa holds her newborn. Ron, Dee, and Will are free of the Olsens forever, their foster nightmare dissolved by floodwater and dynamite in equal measure. Annieville is unrecognizable, but they're alive. A lone technician stares at his radar screen.
Something is forming in the Atlantic, something bigger. His hand freezes on the keyboard. His face goes white. Annieville survived Hurricane Henry. But Henry, the data suggests, was just the opening act. Whatever is coming next, the Category 5 scale won't even cover it. And somewhere in the Atlantic, the next storm is already forming.